post-production. There we go. Okay, let me share my screen. Let's see. This desktop. Okay. Play full screen. Why can't I just don't do it at full screen? Okay, let's do it like that. All right, so let's do today's demo. And the date is off, but it is still today. So let's remind first why we are here. And this is our mission. We make the Stacks blockchain accessible to everyone. And there is also a reminder of our values, how we work, how do we behave. So Q2 goals, we are at the end of Q2 at the moment. We basically hit almost all the goals that we have. There are some things that are going to be done during Q3. Probably the biggest one is Microblocks, it's the second one there. We are really close to get it done, but it's going to fall into Q3. Last week, we had the second hackathon for the team. This time was test week. So we concentrated all our efforts in testing the web wallet. And we're going to start our demo today with web wallet and tests. And take a look then at the onboarding designs, which, by the way, they look amazing. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the Explorer, state management improvements, both in Explorer and the web wallet, Connect, and also updates to the desktop wallet. So with that, Kevin, I pass it to you so you can share the work that we've done last week.
Yeah, indeed. So we spent a couple of days last week doing some integration test flows. I'm going to run them now. We're probably not going to watch them all because it's a little bit repetitive eventually, but I'll run you through some of the ones that extra flows we've tested. Should give you an idea just of how the automation works. Basically, it sort of just loads up a browser and runs through all the test sequences. We've written some tests for the send form. So we're testing like the validation. We're testing some of the functionality like the send max button. Some tests we wrote include like switching account functionality like this, which can just give us a little bit more certainty that it works every time we cut a new release. Thomas was also working on some unit tests for the state management hooks as well. So we've gone from something like 3% code coverage to a much more respectable 30, but still a long way to go. Yeah, have I forgotten any of the tests we've written? I mean, if we sit and watch them, we'll see them come along. Right now, the tests aren't particularly optimized in that we sort of like, in many cases, run through the same setup the wallet over and over again. But that could be fixed later. I mean, that's okay. Mark wants to watch. Yeah, it is cool to see the automation in flow. As I say, it can be much faster, but you know, it really gives you a feel for like what we can do and just how much more we can do. And yeah, I mean, this will help a great deal with just general stability. See some of the reports here, signing, you know, address generation. Hank wrote some of these tests as well when he did the wallet originally. So yeah, really, it's these sort of couple of days doing tests is just sort of like really setting us up to keep running more, sort of the more features that we add. Yeah. And actually, while they're running, I mean, I can also talk about the desktop wallet as well. So there's not really anything to demo because we only really did bug fixes, but we're showing the total balance instead of the available balance. That was reported as quite confusing and concerning UI choice of showing kind of fewer stacks than you actually do have. So we've swapped those values around. We're now displaying properly the amount credited and debited from a wallet when using when stacks are transferred through a contract call, as is done with deposits from an exchange or withdrawals from an exchange. And also we had, I'm not sure who it was exactly, but we had community contribution as well, fixing a rounding issue with some of the, how the stacking percentage completion is displayed. And perfectly, you can now see that all the tests have passed. So we have something like 20 or so tests, and the plan is to keep running these and just getting our software much more stable. So there you go.
And that wallet balance thing is funny. I remember I was doing the exact inverse. Was it 6 months ago?
Yeah.
My turn?
Well, yeah, I would add to the test work that actually the ultimate goal of this is allowing us to ship with confidence, right? So if we have confidence, we can ship faster. So that's why we want to do it, and we want to keep doing it. Yeah, Jasper, go on.
Cool. Onboarding. So we now actually have OKRs for onboarding, getting users into apps and them registering names and making contract calls. So that's great. So we already started working on the onboarding a little bit before that, because we started by mapping out all the steps a user would need to go through if they were to use apps. And there are quite a lot of steps, and we found out, hey, we actually don't support many of these steps. So we essentially tell the user, well, you're on your own. Go and figure out where to get stacks and get it into your wallet. So we want to, the first step is just supporting people along those steps, and then improving that process over time, or even trying to remove steps. So as I said, the goal is to get users into apps as fast as possible with everything they have. So for that, we have two flows. We have one, if you just decide to download the wallet from hiro.so or stacks.co without going through an app flow, in which case you will have this nice welcome screen. There's going to be a nice illustration here. And you choose whether to create a new account or to sign in. If you create a new account, you set a password, and then you're into the wallet in full screen mode. And then this panel you're seeing here, this new onboarding panel, will guide you through the steps you'll need to go through to use apps. So step one would be to fund your account. Then once you've done that, it would be to try some apps, and then to back up your key, and then to get a name. So this is step two, exploring apps, which will take you to stacks.co. Backing up your key. So after you have some funds and you have used some apps, time to back up your key, and then lastly, to find a name. And then there are some alternatives where we move, for instance, the back up your key step into this flow before the password, etc. Now, if you go through an app, let's say Swapper, what we want to do is really get out of the way and get people into an app. We don't want to make them do stuff that is not critical to using that app at that time. So here's a glimpse also of the authentication choice model, which is kind of our version of Wallet Connect. So you could connect extras, for example. But you would get the wallet again from the store. You would have that same introduction. You would again set a password. But then we have this little extra where we say, hey, your account has been created. Do you want to return the swapper or not? And this link would save people from having to close this tab, going back to swapper, refreshing it, and then connecting their account again. So a little bit better. And then what else is cool? Some mocks for, instead of showing the account so prominently and this logo, which is redundant, where we focus on the total value instead of an account, which is probably more interesting given all the apps right now that are focused on trading and speculation. So that way we also have the header be the same in both views. That's maybe something related to onboarding that's coming. Yeah, that's it. If you want to check it out some more or provide comments, there's a discussion thread on the Stacks Wallet web repo.
I'm really looking forward to these updates, especially like the full screen wallet. It's going to open possibilities all over the place. Yeah. All right, let's see what's next. So yeah, the Explorer. We haven't done any work on the Explorer for quite some time. So I'm excited to see what's happening there. So Farah, would you like to show what you've done with Microblocks?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yep. Yes.
Yes. Okay, so yeah, this is kind of a work in progress, implementing Microblocks into the Explorer. So right now, the transaction list is split into in Microblocks and now into in anchor blocks. And then also the block list is split up into, you see the anchor block and the microblock showing up. And if you click on one of the transactions in a microblock, you now get the included in microblock status. And the other thing is the blocks list. Now, when you see this microblock row, there's actually implemented now a dedicated microblock page. There's still some details we have to hash out, just the information that we want to show, but it's kind of set up to be there now and to, yeah. I think that is all the places that it shows up. We did switch the two lists to the confirmed transactions list is going to be first and pending second. Yeah, but other than that, I think that's everywhere Microblock shows up in the Explorer.
Nice. Cool. So since you're sharing, do you want to share the work that you've done on Connect?
Yeah, so there was quite a bit of stuff that was done, and then just some almost like R&D work done on onboarding, just because it's really hard to kind of redirect after onboarding, after downloading the extension. So stuff that has been merged, for instance, this modal was redesigned. So that's live and in production. And then also, if you go to now a browser that we don't support, you actually get this modal of information and links to actually download browsers that we do support. So those two things are live. And then if you actually do go to download, this has actually been redesigned and live. When I did the test work for onboarding, I'll show you this actual modal will go away and you won't ever see that. It would disappear after you go to download. So to simulate kind of like where I left off, you go to kind of like download. So you'll notice that the Chrome store browser window automatically closed. So that's part of the improvement. And then when you actually go through onboarding, what I did was once the user is logged in, they'll be redirected back to their app tab. And it reloads, so it automatically is detected that it's installed. So now when they click, that button could adjust the text. You just have to select the actual account and then they're logged in automatically. So it's a bit better user experience. It's some good R&D, and it's been left in draft mode for when we actually implement the onboarding changes. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Farah. Okay, so next, Thomas, with state management updates.
Yeah, so prior to last week, there's some work done on the web wallet to kind of move away from Recoil to a very kind of analogous state management library called Jotai. The rationale behind it was kind of, it's the same pattern, it's atom-based state. However, Jotai kind of has some tighter integrations with some tooling that we're more interested in, such as like a data fetching library called React Query that's very popular, very, very good. And then other things too, like RxJS and some better dev tool kind of integrations. So there's not much work to kind of like visually show on the web wallet, but that was done. It's more ready to kind of be deployed. It also allowed for us to test the state a little bit better. As Karen mentioned, I wrote a bunch of unit tests around kind of different conditions. So that's really, I think, a favorable improvement compared to Recoil. I was also doing some research and saw that Recoil has some memory leak issues that Jotai does not because of some kind of implementation details. To that point, though, I have been doing some work the last couple of weeks on the Explorer to kind of bring us in line in the same way that we're kind of using Jotai in the web wallet. Previously in the Explorer, we were kind of using a weird combination of Recoil, React Query, and another kind of data fetching library called SWR, which is by the people who make Next.js. But let me just share my screen quick. So here's the Explorer. So what I've done so far is basically refactored away kind of all of our various different ways we were fetching data and combine it into one kind of predictable way that's used for all of our pages. And so you can kind of I wanted to demo like it's very, very fast and everything is working pretty well. But this is in production mode. And then there's some interesting new features for when we're working in dev mode. One being we now kind of have access to this React Query dev tool, which gives us insight into all the queries that are currently running in the app. And so on the homepage, we just have 3, and they're for the confirmed, pending, and confirmed blocks. And you can kind of see one of the advantages of using React Query is it gives us really great kind of like real-time-esque sort of features where it will pull and refresh data automatically at a given interval that we kind of define. In addition to that, you can kind of see, I'll navigate to this blocks page, and it automatically kind of updates, it fetches our data for us, and we can kind of inspect all of these queries as we want. And then additionally, as we kind of navigate between pages, it's smart enough to know that we have this query in cache. And so rather than doing an additional fetch, it'll pull that data from cache and kind of display it and then pick up where it left off and automatically kind of revalidate it as needed. And then outside of that, I've done some more work to add integration to the Redux dev tools. So now we can kind of navigate and view our state as it kind of is modified throughout the application. So if we want to get a better kind of insight into like, we have a bunch of atoms right now that are related to what's currently in view. So if we wanted to click, the atom that's related to the transaction that's currently visible, we can kind of see the state. We can kind of look at all this different stuff and, just have a better insight into what's going on in the application. Yeah, that's everything.
Cool, thank you. This is super cool. All right, so yeah, that ends our demo. So I'm going to stop recording